to another edition of our Time First series program, hosted by Se Vea Las Mercedes. My name is Marsha Anglerell, and I'm the Cultural Affairs Officer of the Venezuela Affairs Unit. So once again, I'll be serving as the moderator for this 5th edition of our program, in which we discuss important female American leaders. As a reminder, we're doing this program in English so that our audience, all of you today, can practice your English skills. And today we'll be featuring a short documentary on Rita Moreno, an outstanding American actress and activist. We'll again be hosting co-director of this documentary, Diane Tsai of Time Magazine. Hello, Diane.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, we're great. It's great to have you back. So we'll be asking Diane some questions, and we'll, of course, select some of the ones that you post. So please do put them into the chat box. You're welcome to ask about more than just Rita Moreno, as we are also here to talk about female leadership. And we also welcome your comments as well as your questions. Please also note that Diane is not an expert on Rita Moreno, but given that she is a very well-known actress and activist, we can discuss some matters related to her long career and experiences. And you're welcome to pose your questions in English or Spanish, which we'll translate for Diane to answer. All right, so again, we just welcomed Diane. This will likely be our last session with her. Then we'll have one more session next week with our other co-director. Let me just explain briefly a little bit about Rita Moreno. She is an American actress, singer, and dancer of Puerto Rican descent, whose career has had a span of over 70 years. Rita Moreno was the first Latina who won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony for her performances. She's also received many other important awards, such as the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Kennedy Center Honors for Lifetime Artistic Achievement and contributions to American culture. Okay, enough about me talking. Let's now watch the video on Rita Moreno. That was a great video and great interview. You know, she's been an actress for 70 years and a role model, I think, for that long also. So Diane, welcome again. Thanks so much for coming back with us here today. So since this is your last session with us, could you tell our audience a little bit about how you came to work for Time Magazine, or any advice you have for film or journalism students before we talk about your interview with Rita?
Sure. Yeah, so I love to tell students or anybody who's looking to get into the industry to not be afraid to reach out. When I first worked at Time, I was there as an intern, as a college student, and I remember that was a piece of advice that somebody gave me. They just said, you know, keep reaching out and be consistent about it, because you never know when a job opportunity will open up. And if you are consistent about reaching out to these people, you will be the first person who comes to mind. So I really took that to heart. And after my internship was over, I made sure to, I think I emailed the video team at Time about once a month, just updating them about what I was working on, showing them clips and just checking in. And I didn't always get a response, but later that summer, I suddenly heard back from them telling me that there was an opening and would I be interested in coming to interview. So you know, a lot of other parts of it is just, I think I was in the right place at the right time, but showing that initiative and interest really went a long way. I think that when they were looking for somebody, I came to mind.
That's such excellent advice, and it's funny. I often use the same advice even for people, especially women that are interested in joining the Foreign Service. Is to reach out, to make connections, to look for role models or mentors, because I think as women, and even particularly members of minority groups, that's not something we we know to do sometimes. And I think we need that encouragement, to reach out. But
Mhm.
anyway, so turning to your interview with Rita, we'd really be interested to know, what is your impression of Rita as an icon of American culture, and a woman who's still active as an actress after so many years?
Yeah, I have such a wonderful memory of this interview and the day we did the shoot. Um, I've been so lucky to meet a lot of very high profile people, and the ones who really stand out, it really stays with you. And so, getting to meet Rita Moreno in her home in California, um, she was just so warm and friendly and full of life. And it felt like we were just hanging out with her for the afternoon. It just had such a different feeling from a lot of the other shoots I've been on. So it's a very cherished memory for me. Um, and yeah, one of the things that was most memorable about her home is when you walk into the living room, there's this long shelf there holding all of her awards and magazine covers. And we just had such a great time slowly looking through all of them. And she mentions it in the short video that, sometimes she comes out and she just thinks to herself, who would have thought that this would happen? But she also is reminded that these awards aren't what make her valuable in life, and that through all of the hardships in her career, she's learned to, find her own value and advocate for herself. Um, and yeah, for somebody like her with such a long career and such an interesting story and background of trying to break into the industry at such a young age, I was really curious if she had felt imposter syndrome or ever doubted her abilities. And then when did she get to the point where she had a clear vision for her career and felt like she had uh, the sense of self to push back to agents, directors, and things like that. And a lot of what she said was really surprising to me, that, I think she had a good sense of her talent from a very young age. And that's what, attracted her to show business. But that even when on the outside, maybe it seemed like she was doing well in her career, that she really struggled with the roles that she was being put in, and the way that she was being perceived, and that all of these things and limitations really impacted her own sense of self. It was really heartbreaking to hear. Um, and I just saw that recently there's a new documentary out about Rita Moreno's life and career, and the director had said that she really wanted to tell Rita's story because she saw herself reflected in all of Rita's answers about what it's like to constantly experience discrimination, to feel these insecurities, and having to work 3 times harder to show that she was worthy of these roles she was being given. And I think a lot of us, women, people of color, women of color, so many of us can relate to that sense of uh, feeling like you have to really fight for something, sometimes even harder, just to be given that chance. So, yeah, I just, I have so much admiration for Rita, and she mentions in the film that it wasn't until she played Anita in West Side Story that she found her role model. And so, and West Side Story came out when Rita was 30. So, she was, you know, pretty far into her career by then because she started at such a young age. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't realize that, but yeah, that is amazing that it took a role that she was playing for it to become a role model for her. Um,
Mhm.
you mentioned the awards that she's won, and I think it is interesting to note that Rita Moreno is one of only 16 artists who have received what's called the EGOT, meaning that all the major American Performing Arts Awards she has won. That includes an Emmy for 2 of her roles on TV, on The Muppet Show and a program called The Rockford Files. Then a Grammy for her achievements on musical recordings for children as part of a children's show called The Electric Company. That was in 1973. Of course, an Oscar for her role as supporting actress in West Side Story in 1962. And a Tony for a musical theater role in The Ritz in 1975. And to understand the significance of this, some other artists who have received all 4 of these awards are Audrey Hepburn, Whoopi Goldberg, Mike Nichols, John Legend, Mel Brooks, and Andrew Lloyd Webber. And of the 16 who've achieved this honor, only 4 have been women. So, Rita's in good company, but definitely we need more of her in that group. Let's go to one of the questions we've received already from our audience. So first of all, we send our greetings to our viewers in Merida City who are there as part of SEVAM's Binational Center. And their question is, the Time series profiles women who are groundbreaking in a variety of fields, many in common to women and many women from a variety of ethnic backgrounds. So you're Asian American. Do you have any difficulties that you could recount as having been a young woman of Asian descent working in the news media?
Yeah, I think there have been many times where I felt like I was underestimated or overlooked. And I think especially in my role as a video producer, it involves, it's not only the reporting and the producing, but there's also a physical and technical component to it where you're on the road, you're carrying the gear, and you also need to have a good understanding of how the equipment works, the lighting setup, and all of these things. And yeah, and a lot of times I'll walk onto a set and I don't look the way that people expect me to look. And I can tell that people have assumptions about what I'm capable of or how much experience I have. I've gotten asked if I was working for my school paper when I was, years out of school. But so I have felt like a lot of times that I had to work extra hard to make sure that my work was outstanding to feel like I could gain that respect and not have to keep proving myself over and over. Yeah. And I think, but sometimes this is a discussion that I think we are trying to have in many different industries, trying to get a better sense of like, how do we understanding how race plays into workplace dynamics. It is very difficult to pinpoint and identify. A lot of it is in these really nuanced things that are hard to name. And so thinking about all the things that have been going on recently, I've also been doing some reflecting as well, because I think part of being a person of color is you don't always want to focus on these instances or constantly think about how you might be treated differently. And so sometimes I do have to go back and think about, okay, like what do I think was really happening in this situation? But it's really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that, like you mentioned, that's true in all kinds of industries and fields, and that unconscious bias, that can happen in just about any situation. I was really struck by what Rita, said in her interview about always having to speak with an accent in her roles, and not having one herself. I can't imagine having a career for that long and always having to speak with an accent. I would hope that she's seen some improvement, throughout her decades-long career on that. Did she, I mean, I know you couldn't cover everything in the short documentary, but did she by any chance mention progress that's been made or that she's saw throughout her career in that regard?
I did. I did see an interview she did um, around the same time where somebody did ask her what her advice would be to Hollywood directors. Um, and her response was kind of, she said, things have gotten better, but um, this is the work that they need to do themselves. And it's an understanding that they need to come to. And so she said, I don't really have anything to say to them, which that was a really interesting response.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's taking the high road, I guess, there. Um, yeah, no, I mean, I've certainly have seen improvement just looking at, TV shows and movies today. Um, but there's improvement, but there's still some of the same, because I think about even that show Modern Family, and I forgot the actress's name right now who plays the Latina wife
Oh,
of one of
Sophia
the.
Vergara.
Yes, yes, who I believe is originally a blonde, but had to play a brunette in the show to look more Latina, so that stereotype of, they all have to look a certain way, right, when there's such diversity. So yeah, definitely progress, but still, some of those stereotypes being perpetrated. Um, I also wanted to ask you if there are any other Time Magazine projects that you're working on right now or have completed recently.
Sure, yeah. Well, I did want to mention one project that actually came out a year ago, but I forgot to mention earlier that, you know, when we were talking about my experience of being an Asian American woman in the workplace, it's also been a really challenging time, especially for my colleagues who have been covering the news, to see this staggering number of attacks on Asian Americans in the country, and um, I was reminded of how a year ago at the beginning of the pandemic, I had actually done a piece about an Asian American doctor who was treating COVID patients. And he was telling me about how even as he was taking the subway, an empty subway in New York City on his way to work, somebody came up to him and was yelling racial slurs at him, as he was really putting his life on the line, trying to do his best. And then at the same time, he was worried about his parents back home who had had some incident with somebody breaking into their car. And I think in that moment it was concerning, but I never expected how much that would continue and keep building for the next year. Um, and so, yeah, so that was a piece that I think um, was so relevant and a lot of people related to. And unfortunately, it's still very relevant now. And it's something that we're still all dealing with. Um,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, because it really is horrifying, the incidents that are occurring in the United States against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And, it's important to talk about, but all the more reason why, more high level officials, celebrities, other influencers need to speak up about it. So I'm glad that you are as well, to draw attention to that because a lot of it is based on, false information, obviously, and just, stereotypes that need to be obviously, questioned and misinformation, obviously. So yeah, thank you for that. Um, is there anything else about I mean, you mentioned, the Rita interview, was very memorable to you. Was there anything else in particular that struck you about something, that she said. You said, yeah, at least you did this in her home, which I think obviously probably made it more intimate, right?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, she was just such a joy to photograph. I mean, I didn't photograph her, but to watch the photography process, everything was just, it was fun. And I think she has this openness that is very uh, charismatic. And I could tell she was taking an interest in us as people, and to the point where, she asked us for our numbers, and she actually texted me a few months later when she was in New York. It was, it's that kind
Wow.
of realness. Yeah, that is real. That really meant something to me, because I was like, wow, we're not just another camera crew here. She's not treating us like, she was treating us as people and was genuinely interested in connecting, which, yeah, I really appreciate about her. And I think that's what gives her still today this sense of youthfulness um, and fun. Yeah,
Mhm.
liveliness.
How long ago was it that you conducted that interview with her?
It was a couple years ago now. So I want to maybe 2017,
Okay.
sometime
Oh,
around
okay. So
then.
maybe 4 years ago. Okay, because I believe
Yeah.
she's about 89 now. So yeah, she would have been 85.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, I remember even then, like, she did not seem like her age at all. So,
yeah, she looks amazing. So yeah, very much a role model for women actresses, human beings in general. Uh, okay, so we're only a few minutes away from finishing this fifth session of our Time for series. Of course, we want to invite our audience to join us again in 2 weeks for what would be our final session, same day of the week and time of day. So Diane, thanks so much again for joining us. It's been such a pleasure having you for this series. Any closing thoughts that you have, particularly having participated in this 3 times now?
oh wow. It's been such a pleasure talking with you, and um yeah, I really hope that everyone who's tuning in has learned something from it, and hopefully, um, yeah, hopefully this inspires you to take up space, and to, um, to go after what you want, and to know that there were these incredible women before you who have accomplished so much, even in the face of a lot of obstacles and difficulties, as possible. So just want to leave you with that piece of encouragement.
Oh, no, that's great. Thank you so much. And again, also to our host, Sevilla Las Mercedes team, we want to thank you for continuing to host us. You've been a wonderful host and support for this program. And thanks also to our friends and guests in the audience. We hope to see you back for our last Time for series in 2 weeks. So that concludes our session for today. And thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.